So in the last session, we have discussed the role of ABAP consultant in what SAP projects. What are the different types of objects we develop, and before development and what after development. Okay. Now let's get into this ABAP. So we understand that ABAP is a technical module in what SAP. ABAP is one of the module in SAP. ABAP is a what programming language. ABAP is a programming language for what? SAP. And this ABAP stands for what? Advanced Business Application Programming. Advanced Business Application Programming. So let's get into this. Right. So I want to connect to the SAP server. Okay, I want to connect to the SAP server and develop the objects. Okay. Whatever we develop, we call them as what? Objects. Okay. So let me connect to the SAP server. So just like if you want to connect to any website, okay, if you want to connect to any website, what we require browsers. We require Google Chrome, we require either Mozilla or Internet Explorer. So we require some browsers. We'll open the browser and we'll provide the website. Okay. Similarly, to connect to the SAP server, okay, we require what? Logon pad. We require SAP GUI. So it is something like this. Assume that, yeah, see here. This is a SAP server. Okay, this SAP server contains what? Application server and what? Database server. Application server means where the processing will take place, where all the calculations takes place. Database server means it is a place where your entire data will be stored. Okay, so assume that in one of the machine we install the SAP server. So SAP server means it's a combination of what? Application server and what? Database server. Okay. So in order to connect to this SAP server, in all the client machines, we need to install what? SAP GUI, graphical user interface. Okay, I repeat once again. In order to connect to the SAP server, we require a client software. That client software is nothing but what? SAP GUI, graphical user interface. So these are all the client machines. In each of these machines, we'll install what? SAP GUI. You can compare this SAP GUI is like a browser to connect it to any website. So I want to connect to the Yahoo server. Okay, Yahoo server is located somewhere else. Okay. Now I need to connect to that server means I need to open the browser. So browser is a client software. Okay, what is the server software there? Yahoo. Okay, similarly here also in one of the machine we'll install the server SAP software. Okay, and in the rest of the client machines we need to install what? Client software, which we call it as what? SAP GUI, SAP graphical user interface. So it is something like this. Whenever we install SAP GUI, we'll get the logon pad. So let me connect to the server and show you. One second. I'm connecting, just hold on. Yeah. So here, whenever we connect, this is my server, remote server. So here you can see we have the logon pad. So when this logon pad will be available, SAP logon, whenever we install the client software, what is the client software here? SAP GUI. We call it as SAP GUI, graphical user interface. It is a client, it is a SAP client software. So we'll install the client software, then you'll get the logon pad. So let me connect to the server. I'll just click on the logon pad. I'll double click on that. Yeah, now you can see here we have different servers here. It is asking to which server you want to connect. Let me choose this server. Okay, here I'm having access to multiple servers. So I'll just choose this server here. I'll click on log on. So when you take the system on the rental also, okay, rental machine also, when you connect to the server remotely on their desktop, you'll have the logon pad. Okay, so just double click on that and choose the appropriate server. So here I'm choosing this one. I'll click on what? Log on button. When I click on the log on button, see what happens. Yeah, here you can see I got one login screen here. In this login screen, it is asking for what? Client number. What is the client number displayed here? 400 it seems. Okay. So in the last class, I believe we have discussed about the what development system, quality system, and production system. ABAP consultant will have access to our development system, and testers may have access to our quality system, and the client team will have access to our production system. Similarly, here also. So in each of those systems, it is something like this here. Yeah, see this. Suppose assume that we are working for some company Wipro. Try to understand this. We are working for some company Wipro, and Wipro is implementing SAP for a customer called as Tata. Okay. So for Wipro is the customer Tata. So in the Tata project, what is the landscape here? Landscape means how the systems are set up. So in every SAP project, you will have minimum of these three clients: development client, quality client, and what production client. Okay, you'll have what these three systems: development, quality, and what production. Similarly, assume that in the same Wipro company there is one more project, Reliance. In the Reliance also, we will have what development client, quality client, and what production client. So what exactly is a client concept in SAP means? In SAP, client is nothing but what? It's a three-digit number. It's a three-digit number ranging from 000 to 999. Client is a three-digit number ranging from 000 to 999. So in the project landscape, okay, in the project landscape, as I told you, you will have what minimum three systems. One is development client, another is what quality client, another is what production client. Okay, so as an ABAP consultant, you will have access to what development client. All the development that we do, we will do it in what development client. Then we have what quality client. Okay, quality client access, as I told in the last class, will be given to what the testers and sometimes to some of the functional consultants, may or may not, some of the functional consultants. Then production client access will be given to what the end user, the customer team. Okay, so why we are discussing this is in every project you will have these three clients: development, quality, and what production. So how do we identify this client is, how do we identify these systems is based on those client numbers. Client is what 3D number. So assume that in the Tata project, for the development client, what is the number assigned? 250. For quality client, what is the number assigned? 500. For the production client, the number assigned is what? 750. Who will assign these clients? Who will create these clients? By the administrator. Okay, by the administrator, by the basis consultant. As an ABAP consultant, we are not responsible for creating the clients. It is the job of administrator, basis consultant. Okay, and for each of these clients, the users are assigned. In the sense, assume that in the Tata project, there are some 10 ABAP consultants working. There are some 10 ABAP consultants working in the Tata project. So what happens? The basis consultant will create 10 user IDs. For each consultant, you will have a separate user ID and what password. You will create those 10 user IDs and you will assign those users to this particular client. What is the client here? 250. So every user will have what user ID and what password. Similarly, we will have access to quality client by the testers. So assume that there are some 5 testers working in the quality client. So we will create what 5 users. Production system, assume that there are some 10 end users. So 10 user IDs will be available in the production system. So I can say that suppose in the Tata project, if I am referring to the client number 500, what is the meaning of that? I am referring to what quality client. Understood? Similarly, in the Reliance project, if I am referring to 350 client, I am referring to which client here? Development client. So in the real time also, try to understand this. In the real time also, you will have the logon pad. So assume that I am an ABAP consultant. When I double click on the logon pad, yeah, here you might have some options like development, quality, and what production. Okay, assume that you'll have 3 options: development, quality, and production. So if I'm an ABAP consultant, I will have access to what development client. So I'll choose development client. If I'm a tester, I will have access to what quality client. So I'll be choosing what quality, something like that. If I'm an end user, I'll choose what live system, production system. So assume that this is a development client, for example. Okay, I'll choose this. I'll click on what log on. What is the client number displayed here in this case? Oh, 1 second. Yeah. What is the client number displayed here? 400. Similarly, in the real time also, whenever you connect to your development system, some number will be displayed here. We need not worry about how to create this number, who will create this number, where will create this number. Okay, this is the job of what administrator. To this client number, your user ID and password will be assigned. So here also, I'll give the user ID and what password. Am I clear? So in the real time also, every consultant will have their own credentials. So I'll use the user ID here. This is my user ID. I'll give the password. Okay, provide the password. Then it is asking the logon language. So what is the understanding of a client? A client is a three-digit number. In SAP, a client is a three-digit number used for what? Unique identification. Unique identification of a system, used for unique identification of a system in the landscape. In the landscape means in the project landscape. Every project will have minimum three systems: development, quality, and what? Production. Each of the system will be assigned a number. That number is called as what? Client number, for unique identification of the systems. Done. So I give the credentials here: user ID, password, logon language. So SAP software is multilingual. SAP software is multilingual, means suppose assume that I am a user from America. Okay, so I prefer all the screens in what? English. Okay, assume that I am a user from German, so I prefer all the screens in what? German language. I don't understand English, so I prefer everything in what? German language. So what I'll do, instead of giving it as EN, I'll give it as DE. D indicates what? German. So what SAP has done, almost for every international language, almost for every international language, SAP has provided what? Language key. EN means English, FR means French, DE means German. So if I give D here, what is the meaning? I am trying to log on to the system in which language? German language. So all the screens I'll get in what? German language. So, but I'll get it only if the language is installed. Otherwise, I'll not get. Let me try. So I'll just click on enter. Okay, and you can see here, welcome to the IDS S4 HANA system. IDS for training purpose, SAP has released this version. IDS, International Demonstration Education System. Okay, so these are all not the licenses of it. These are all the training. What for training purpose we can use these systems. Done. I'll press enter. I'm trying to log on in which language? German language. So I'll press enter. Yeah, when I press enter, you can observe there are some words which we cannot understand. They are displayed in what? German language. Some words I'm able to understand, but some words they are in what? German dictionary. So I'll just click on continue. Right, you can observe here this SAP Easy Access in English. This menu is in English, but you can see there are some things here which are in German language. I cannot understand. I cannot understand. Is it clear? So here also you can see the text, the descriptions are there in what? German language. So if I'm a user from Germany, I prefer everything in what? German language. Am I clear? So let me just close this. So this screen, this initial screen, we call it as what? SAP Easy Access screen. SAP Easy Access screen. Let me close this. Let me re-log in. So again, you can see it is asking, do you want to log off? Yes or no? Okay. So again, this is in German. I'll say yes. So let me re-log in. I'll provide the credentials. So when you take the system on the rental also, they'll send a mail to you which contains all these login details. What is the client number, user ID, and what password, what is the server IP address, everything. And they'll tell you the process how to connect to their remote server from your laptop. Okay, so I'll just provide the password. Language by default is what? EN. EN indicates what? English. Okay, so let me press enter. Right, continue. I can click on this or I can press enter key. Done. So I got the initial screen. Now everything is displayed in what? English. This screen is called as what? SAP Easy Access screen. So whether I am a ABAP consultant or a FICO consultant or SD consultant or MM consultant, all the consultants will get the screen in what? The same format. This screen we call it as what? SAP Easy Access screen. Am I clear? SAP Easy Access screen. So before I continue, any questions so far, please ask me. Any questions, please ask. Okay, done. So if there are no questions, fine. So I got the SAP Easy Access screen. From this screen only, we'll navigate to what? Other screen. First, let us understand this screen. So you can see here, we have this menu. We have this menu, edit, favorites, extras, system help. This is called as menu bar. So why we should know this terminology is, as an ABAP consultant, we are responsible for managing this menu bar, application toolbar, all those things. That's the reason we should know this terminology. So here this is called as what? Menu bar. Menu bar. Okay, done. Below that, we have some buttons here. You can see we have save button. What is this? Log off button, print button, find next. This is called a standard toolbar. Menu bar is the first one. This is called a standard toolbar. In that only you can see there is one box here where the cursor is blinking. The cursor is blinking here. Okay. This is called as what? Command field. Command field. Here only we'll give the T codes, transaction codes. We'll come to that. Command field. This is standard toolbar. Then we have some text displayed here. SAP Easy Access user menu for ANA. This is called as title bar. Title bar. Below that, we have some buttons here. Other menu, create role. This is called as application toolbar. Menu bar, standard toolbar. In that only we have command field. Then we have what? Title bar, and then we have what? Application toolbar. And obviously this is screen area, and then bottom is called as what? Screen status bar. Status bar. Okay, so it is something like this. This is a SAP Easy Access screen. Initial screen of what? SAP. First you'll have the menu bar, then you'll have the standard toolbar. In that only we have what? Command field, then title bar, application toolbar, screen area, and then what? Status bar. Done. So we understood about the initial screen. Now what is my requirement here? I'm an ABAP consultant. I want to develop an object which has to display me the welcome message. Am I clear? I need to develop an object which has to display me the welcome message. Okay, object in the sense whatever we develop, we call it as what? Object. So I want to display what? Welcome message. So I need to write the program for that now. So if you know C language, where do you write the C language programs? We have something called as Turbo C editor in C or C++. We install what? Turbo C software, and we'll get an editor in that. In that editor only we'll what? Develop your C or C++ program. Similarly, if you take Java, where we can develop the Java programs, again I can what? Do it in I can do it in Notepad, WordPad. Okay, I can use any editor, some tools we have. Okay, Eclipse tool, all those things. In all those things we can develop the Java code. Similarly, ABAP is a purely what? Technical model. Na? What we will do in the ABAP, we are going to do the development. Okay, so what SAP has done is, in SAP we have a concept of what? T codes. We have a concept called as T code. So just understand this. T code stands for what? Transaction. I know this will be boring for some of you, already know these things, but since we need to start from very scratch, so here T codes means what? Transaction codes. Okay, transaction codes provides navigation to a transaction or a tool. First of all, what is the meaning of a transaction? Anyone? What is the general meaning of a transaction? Forget about SAP, forget about ABAP. What is the general meaning of a transaction? Yes. What is the meaning of a transaction? Suppose if you take our bank, we will do our transactions, right? Withdrawing the amount is what? Transaction. Depositing the amount is what? Transaction. Or I'll put it in a simple way. You want to withdraw an amount from an ATM. What you will do? We need to follow certain procedure. What is that? We'll insert our ATM card or debit card, whatever it is. We'll insert that. Then you'll get a initial screen to enter your card number. Okay, you'll enter the card number. If the pin is fine, if the what pin number is valid pin, then I'll get the next screen. It will ask you whether it is current account or what savings account. Assume that I'll choose savings account. I'll get the next screen like options, the checkbook request, what mini statement, what else, cash withdrawal, like that. You'll get the options. I'll choose cash withdrawal. Then I'll get the next screen. Enter the amount to withdraw. I'll enter the amount. I'll get the next screen. Do you want receipt? Yes or no? I'll say yes. Then I'll get the amount. Then I'll get a message. Do you want to continue? Yes or no? So like that. What I mean to say is to withdraw the amount from an ATM, I cannot do it in one single screen. I should navigate across what? Many screens to perform that particular transaction. So a transaction is the one where we exchange data to perform a business task. Where we exchange the data to perform a business task. So if you take this SAP FICO module, finance and controlling, this is designed for which department? Finance department. So assume that related to finance department, you will have 100 transactions. 100 transactions. So what is the transaction in this case? Each transaction may contain what? N number of screens. Each transaction may contain n number of screens. So how many transactions are there in this FICO model? 100 transactions. So what SAP will do? 100 T codes they'll give. This is an example I'm giving. Similarly, we have SAP SD model. This is related to which department? Sales department. Okay. So assume that related to sales department, we have 200 different transactions. So how many T codes SAP will give? 200 T codes. So the number of T codes depends upon what? Number of what? Transactions. Similarly, ABAP is also one of the module in SAP, but ABAP is a programming language where we do the development. So to do the development, we require what? Tools. Okay. In the last class, I discussed about RISEF, reports, interfaces, conversions, enhancements, and what? Forms. So to develop different types of objects, we require different types of what? Tools. We require different types of tools. So in other modules other than ABAP, I'm calling them as transactions. In ABAP, I'm calling it them as a tool. Tool is the one where we do develop something. Okay. So if there are n number of tools, how many T codes are required? N number of what? T codes. Okay. So these are some of the T codes I give. ABAP related T codes. These are the T codes related to basic ABAP only. Means what I mean to say is, as an ABAP consultant, these are the T codes which we will be using very frequently. You will have thousands of T codes. You cannot remember, I cannot remember. Throughout the SAP system, we will have thousands of T codes. No one can remember. So, but what you have to remember is, if you are a SD consultant, I am expected to remember all the or major of the T codes related to what? SD module. Rahul, can you please mute your speakers? Rahul,
Yeah. Hello, sir.
yeah,
Good morning.
yeah. Good morning. Can you please mute your speakers? In the attendees
Yeah,
list,
yeah,
yeah, in the attendees list, right click on your name and mute.
Oh, yeah. I already mentioned my name.
No, no, that's fine. But you need to mute in the sense, in the attendees
Okay,
list,
okay,
wherever your name is there, right click and mute.
okay, okay.
Right click on your name and mute. Fine. If you have any questions, you can unmute and ask. Okay. So what we are trying to discuss here. So to perform any transaction, we need to open the transaction. How do you open the transaction? We will provide what? The T codes. Okay, so as an ABAP consultant, these are the important T codes, or these are the frequently used T codes which we will be using related to basic ABAP. What are the list I gave? These are the T codes which we use frequently related to what? Basic ABAP. Basic ABAP. Doesn't mean that we'll be using only these T codes, but I am sure 80 to 90% of times they are the general T codes which will we use for most of the requirements. Okay, so what I am trying to say is, if you are a FICO consultant, we are expected to remember all the transaction codes related to what? FICO model. If you are SD consultant, we are expected to remember all the T codes related to what? SD model. If you are ABAP consultant, we are expected to remember all the T codes related to what? ABAP model. So this will come only by what? Experience. Understood? So I repeat this. What is the meaning of a transaction? This is something like this here. I can say this as a transaction or a tool. Other than ABAP, I'm calling it as transaction. In ABAP, we call them as tools. So assume that to perform a simple transaction, I need to navigate across four screens. Across four screens, starting from what? Initial screen. So what SAP will do? They will link a T code to the initial screen. They will link a T code to the initial screen. So the moment you give the T code, it will open the initial screen related to your transaction, or it will open the initial screen related to your T code, sorry, related to your tool. Am I clear? Just like if you want to withdraw an amount from ATM, what you have to do, you have to insert your card now. If you insert your card only, it will ask you the PIN number, all those things. Similarly, to open any transaction, I need to provide the T code. The moment you provide the T code, it will open the initial screen of that particular transaction, or it's a tool in case of what? ABAP. From this initial screen only, we will navigate across many screens. So my requirement now is what? I want to develop a simple program which has to display me the welcome message. So as I told you, to develop different types of objects, in ABAP, we have different types of tools. Again, each tool is linked with what? T code. So we have a tool called as ABAP editor. ABAP editor. You can understand this ABAP editor similar to Turbo C editor. In C, C++, we use Turbo C editor for developing those programs. Similarly, in ABAP also, to develop your object, to develop your program, to develop your report, I have to use a T code called as what? SC38. SC38. So don't try to buy out these T codes. It will come by what? Experience. So throughout our course, means in Core ABAP, Oops ABAP, and Cross Apps together, we'll be touching around 70 to 80 T codes. 70 to 80 T codes, which I can say we'll be using most of the time for any kind of what requirement. But as the experience grows on, we'll get exposed to what new T codes also. As I told you, in SAP, you'll have thousands of T codes. So depending on the requirement, you'll come across what? A new T code, new transaction code. So what is the T code for opening the ABAP editor? SC38. So what I'll do is just observe this. I got the initial screen of my SAP now. So in this command field where the cursor is blinking top left hand corner in the standard toolbar, we have this command field. I will use a T code called as SC38. SC38. I'm providing the transaction code. Press enter. So when I press SC, when I enter SC38 and press enter, it will open me a tool called as what? ABAP editor. Okay. So let me open this. I'll choose SC38. I'll press enter. Done. It has opened me what? ABAP editor initial screen. So here I need to give the program name, nothing but what? Object name, right? So I'll just summarize quickly once again. In SAP, we'll have what? Different modules. In each module, we'll perform what? Different types of transactions. Different types of transactions. To perform those transactions, SAP has provided what? T codes, transaction codes. Suppose a new customer joins my business. A new customer joins my business. So what I'll do, I will use a T code called as what? XD01, which is responsible for creating the customer. A new vendor has joined the business. So I'll use what? XK01 to create the vendor details. I want to create a new material. So I'll give MM01, material creation. I want to create a sales order, VA01. I want to create a purchase order, ME21. Like this, we'll have many T codes. That's what I listed here. Apart from Core ABAP related T codes, at the end you can see I mentioned some frequently used functional T codes. So as an ABAP consultant, we'll be working in what? Different functional models. I may get an opportunity to work in SD model, MM model, HR model. We don't know that. So we're expected to remember the frequently used T codes of those functional modules. So you can see XG01 is for what? Creating the customer. XG02 is for what? Changing the existing customer. 03 is for displaying the customer data. So like that, I listed some frequently used functional T codes. Okay, done. So what is my agenda here? I want to develop an object. I'm not calling it as a program, remember. Whatever we develop, we call it as objects. I'll go to SE38. It will open me what? ABAP editor. So I need to develop the object now. So here SAP is a package. SAP is the ERP now, means already the transactions which we perform in most of the businesses, they are predefined. They are already available in what? SAP system. Just we need to customize it according to what? Our own requirement. So here what we have to understand is we have something called as standard objects. We have something called as what? Custom objects. So as I told you just now, whatever we develop, we call them as what? Objects. Objects can be in the form of programs. Object can be in the form of tables. Object can be in the form of a screen. Object can be in the form of a form. Object can be in the form of what? A view. Object can be in the form of a search. Like that, different types of objects are there. So SAP is a package which is already developed by SAP company. So as part of the SAP software, there are some thousands of standard objects given by what? SAP. So these objects are given by whom? Provided by what? SAP itself. They are only what? Read and what? Execute. I can only read and I can only what? Execute. Read and execute. Okay, it cannot be what? Modified. It cannot be modified. If you want to modify, you require what? Access key, something called as what? Access key. Okay, and these standard objects starts with what? Starts with other than Z or Y. So what you have to understand is any object name which is starting with what? Other than Z or Y, you understand that as what? Standard object, means which is given by what? SAP, which we cannot modify. We can only read and what? Execute. So to understand this, just observe here. In my ABAP editor, it is asking me a program name. Again, don't call it as program, call it as object. I'll give an object name RBDMIDoc. Don't worry about this. I give some object name RBDMIDoc. So if you see this object name, it is starting with what? R, which is other than Z or Y. Now, any object which is starting with other than Z or Y, you understand that as what? Standard object, predefined object, the object which is already given by what? SAP. So I'll try to modify this. When I click on change button, okay, here it is allowing because I'm having the permission, but okay, generally what happens, it will not allow you. Just to show you that, let me open another server. In that server, I'm having the permission. I'll open other server. Let me check whether I'm having access or not. I'll try to connect to other server. Yeah, here you can see what is the client number 800. This is another server. 800. Welcome to IDS ECC 6.0, including ESP5. I'll press enter. Done. SC38. ABAP editor, it is open. What is the program I gave just now? RBDM IDOC. I'll try to open this program. I'll try to open it in change mode. Good. It is asking me what? Access key. Access key is like a password. In the real time, in the projects, access key will not be given to the users, because the access key is given means I can provide that particular access key. I can do the necessary changes which will disturb the entire functionality. That is why access key will not be given to any of the consultants. Am I clear? So what I mean to say is the standard objects which are given by SAP, they are only what? Read and execute, means I can display it. See, if I display, I'm able to display. I can see the logic of that particular program. Understood? This is the logic of that particular program. Let us not understand this. We cannot understand them at this stage. Understood? I can only open it in what? Display mode. I cannot open it in what? Change mode. So here also we have a button here on the application toolbar. What is this? Display or change. I'll try to open it in change mode. It is asking what? Access key. I cannot modify. I can only read. I can only execute, but I cannot modify. Okay, you take any standard object given by SAP. Suppose I'll open another program, RST Excel DMC. Some program name. Again, it is not starting with Z or Y. So what is the meaning? It is only read and what? It's a standard object which is only read and execute. So if I try to change, it is asking for what? Access key. I can only display it. I can only display it. I can only execute it, but I cannot modify it. Okay. So now, keeping this in mind, custom objects means what? Developed by what? ABAP consultants. Means if the standard objects are not sufficient, or if the standard object doesn't meet your customer requirement, we are going to develop what? New object. That object we call it as what? Custom object. Okay. They starts with what? Z or Y. So how do we differentiate standard object and custom object? Means any object name which is starting with Z or Y, you understand that as what? Custom object. And this doesn't require what? Access key. Doesn't require access key. Doesn't require access key. For example, see this only. Suppose I want to develop a what? A object which has to display me the welcome message. So what is the tool I have to use? ABAP editor. That is, see, wantedly I'm repeating the same thing because this is the first session of practical part. That's the reason I'm keeping on repeating. So what is the tool I have to use? ABAP editor. I'll go to SC38. I'll give the object name. Assume that I'll give the object name as 10 a.m. program 1. Try to understand. What is the object name I give? 10 a.m. program 1. I'll try to click on what? Create. When I try to click on create this program, create this object, is it starting with Z or Y? No, it is starting with something 1. Since it is not starting with Z or Y, SAP will understand that as what? Standard object. So when I try to create, see this? When I try to create, again it is asking what? Access key, because it is understanding that as what? Standard object. So what you have to do now, whenever you want to create the custom object, or we call it as Z object, custom object or what? Z object. So don't get confused with this terminology. I can say it as custom object or what? Z object. So what I have to do, all the custom objects must start with what? Z or Y. If I don't start with Z or Y, what is the problem? It will ask you for what? Access key, like a password kind of thing, which is not shared with what? Any of the consultants in the real time also. Most of the time, it will not be shared. So what I'll do now, let me try to give the program name. So here I'll say, yeah, here I'll start with Z. Again, don't pronounce it as Z in the interviews also. Even that is starting with Z, don't pronounce it as Z. Always pronounce it as Z. Z. Z double E. So Z, I'll give the object name as Z 10 a.m. program 1. Z 10 a.m. program 1. So what happens now? I'll try to create. When I try to create, it will check the object name. It is starting with Z or Y. Na? So what it will understand? It will understand that as what? Custom object. It will understand that is a new object which we are developing on behalf of our customer. So I'll just provide the object name. I'll click on create. In the earlier cases, it was asking for what? Access key. So when I click on the create button, yes, good. You can see here, I got a window. I got a window where I can provide the attribute. So it is asking the title. It is not asking the access key, remember, because it is starting with what? Z or Y. Z objects doesn't require any access key. So here it is asking the title. You can give any title. You can give any title, but always we will give the meaningful title, so that by looking at the title, we will understand the purpose of the object. So let me give the title as, I'll give the title as something, welcome program. I'm giving the title as what? Welcome program. Any meaningful title you can provide. Then the other information is not relevant. In which language you are logged in? English. What is the date of creation? Today's date. What is the username? So and so, all those things. Then after giving the title, we have some properties here. One of the important properties type. Here in this drop down, we need to choose the type of object. We need to choose the type of repository object. So when I click on the drop down, you can see it is asking what type of object you want to create. As of today, we are concerned only with what? Executable program. So let me choose what? Executable program. So I'll choose that. So okay, so in this window, in the pop-up window here, I need to just give the title and just provide the type of object. What is the type of object? Executable program. Don't try to understand other fields. We will discuss if required at later point of time. Okay, so title is so and so, and type of program is what? Executable program. I'll click on what? Save button. Okay, so before I continue, any questions please ask. No questions? Okay, right. So I gave the title, I gave the type of object. Let me click on save button. When I click on save button, it will ask you for package. It will ask you for the package name. What is a package means? You understand a package is like a directory, a package like a folder where we store all your files. Na? Similarly in ABAP also, package is nothing but what? Collection of what? Objects. What is the object name which you are trying to develop? Z10AM. I am not pronouncing it as Z. Pronounce it as what? Z. Don't pronounce it as SAP. Pronounce it as what? SAP. So Z10AM program 1, I give the title, I give the type of program, not execute program, I'll click on save. When I click on save, see what happens. It is asking for you to provide the package name. Just now I told a package is like a directory, a package is like a folder where we can store all your objects. But at this stage, I don't know how to create the package. I don't know where to create the package. Since we don't have any dedicated package, I'll click on what? Local object. But in the real time, what we will do? We will create the package and we'll provide that particular package name. So how to create that package is a different discussion. We'll discuss that later on. As of now, let me choose it as what? Local object. So I'll choose local object here. Understood? What is the object name? Z10AM program 1. What is the type of object? Executable program. The type of object is executable. Done. I'll save it in the local object. So if I save it in local object, what happens? What is your object name here? What is the object name here? Z10AM program 1. Where you are trying to save it? Save in what? Local object. So local object means it gets stored inside a package called as $TMP. SAP itself has provided one default package called as what? $TMP, local object. But in the real-time projects, we will not save it in the $TMP because the objects which we store in $TMP cannot be transported. In the last class, I explained about what? Development client, quality client, and production client. Okay, what are the object the developer develops in the development client? He needs to transport it to what? Quality client. Similarly, here also, the object saved in the local object cannot be transported. Cannot be transported. That's why in the real time, every object that we create has to be stored in what? Transportable package. It is something like this here. I think it is there. Let me open that. Yeah, see this. So we'll have development client, quality client, and production client. Na? So if I store any program, if I store any object in the development client and store it in what? Local object. Local object means where it gets stored inside the default package provided by what? SAP. What is that? $TMP. So if I store it in $TMP, I cannot do the transportation. I cannot move the object from one system to another system. That is why in order to move the object from one system to another system, you need to create what? A package and provide that package at the time of saving the object. But at this stage, for a few days, for a few weeks, forget about how to create our own package. I will save everything in what? Local object. Local object means $TMP. If I save it in a transportable package, I can transport it from one system to another system. But here I cannot transport because I'm going to store it in what? Local object. So where is that? Not this. Yeah. So package, since I don't have the package, I'll click on what? Local object. So what happens? Your object Z10AM program one will get stored inside what? $TMP. So I'll click on local object. What is the type of object I have chosen? Type of object is what? Executable program. So when I click on this local object, or when I click on what? Save button. Oh, specify the package, because okay, when I click on save, it is giving me an error to specify the package. What is the package? A $TMP. What it is saying? Either you specify the package or flag it as what? Local object, or save it as what? Local object. So I'll click on what? Local object. Done. You can see here. It is starting the program. The object is starting with what keyword here? This one. It is starting with that report keyword. So any object, any program which is starting with a report program, you understand that as what? Executable program. I repeat, any object which starts with a report keyword, you have to understand that as what? Executable program. Done. So now let me develop a simple program. What is my agenda here? I want to print welcome message. Okay. So if you want to print the welcome message, I require one keyword, I require one statement. So if you know C language, to display anything we use printf, I think. In C++ we use cout. In Java we use system.out.println. Similarly in ABAP also we have a statement called as what? ABAP statement. So I use what? Sorry, in ABAP we have a statement called as write statement. So write. In ABAP we have a statement called as write statement. You can compare this write is similar to printf, cout in C++, printf in C language, right? What is that I want to display? I want to give a message, welcome message. So welcome to Gensoft Technologies. I want to give that particular message. So welcome to Gensoft Technologies is a string. Na? String means what? Anything group of characters, collection of characters. We call it as what? String. So here I'll say in ABAP, strings are enclosed in single quotes. If you know C, C++, Java, strings are enclosed in what? Double quotes. But whereas in ABAP, the strings are enclosed in single quotes. So write, one second, yeah, right. In single quotes, I want to give a welcome message. Let me write it. Welcome to close a single quote. So anything you enclose in single quotes, you understand that is a string, group of characters, collection of what? Characters. So I gave that string. Let me try to execute this. Again, before I continue, any questions, please? Okay. So if you don't have questions, right. So I want to execute this. So how do we execute this? You have to do four things. One is you have to save it first. You have to check for what? Syntax errors. You have to activate this if required. You have to what? Execute this. These are the four activities that we have to do whenever you want to execute any object. Save. Saving nothing but what? Control S. Control S. Check for syntax errors. Control F2. Activate the object. Control F3. Execute the object. F8. These are the shortcut keys. I can use the keyboard or I can use this particular. One second, this. One second. Packing with this. Yeah, sorry. Where we are? So I can use the shortcut keys on the keyboard or I can use this thing. Okay. Control S, Control F2, Control F3, and what? Execute is what? F8. So let me try to execute this. I wrote this statement. How do we save it? Control S. Na? So on the standard toolbar, you can see we have a button where I'm moving the mouse, standard toolbar. We have a button called as save, Control S. So I'll save it, Control S. What is saying? Program is what? Saved. Then you have to check for errors now. Control F2. Control F2 is a statement used for what? A shortcut for checking what? Syntax errors. So I'll say Control F2. When I say Control F2, good. I got a syntax error. The last statement is not complete, period, missing. So I'm getting a syntax error. So again, if you know C, C++, Java, I believe in those languages, every statement you'll end with what? Semicolon. Every statement you'll end with semicolon. In C, C++, Java. In ABAP, every statement you have to end with a period. Nothing but what? Dot. Since I'm not giving any period there, it is giving an error. The statement is not complete, period, missing. Okay. So let me close. If I double click on this error message, it takes a control to that line where the error is there. Anyway, in my program, I'm having only one error in the 11th line. That's why it's showing it as what? Row is what? 11th line. Done. Okay. It is giving error. So what is the correction here? In C, C++, Java, we'll end with semicolon. In ABAP, one of the programming rule is you have to use dot. Dot indicates what? Period indicates what? End of the statement. Okay. Now, since I modified the program, again I need to save it. Control S. Let me do the syntax check. Control F2. Control F2. You can see on the application toolbar, we have a button what? Check. Control F2. So I can use the shortcut. Control F2. Done. What is happening here? I got a message. Program is syntactically correct. Then what is the next step here? You need to activate your object. Control F3. Control F3. How do we activate here? See, what is the current status of the object? It is inactive. The current status of the object is inactive. I need to activate it. How do we activate? Again, on the application toolbar, we have a button what? The stick icon. What is this? Activate. Control F3. So let me click on this. When I click on this, okay, yeah, you can see now. You can see there are two tabs displayed here. One is local object, another is what? Transportable object. Where did we save our object? In the $TMP, nothing but local object. That's why local object is highlighted and your object name is displayed here and selected here. If you have saved in a transportable package, this would have been highlighted and it will show the object in that list. But here I don't have any package, that's why I saved it in what? Local object. So if I choose this, your object is selected by default, nothing to do here, just continue. Enter key or press continue. Done. What is the object status now? Active. Active means what? This object is stored in the database also now. Done. Let me execute. How do we execute? F8. F8. We'll execute by using what? F8. So let me execute this. Yeah, I'll say F8. When I say F8, I got the result. What is the result I got? Welcome to Gensoft Technologies. This screen where the output is displayed, we call it as what? LPS screen. List processing screen. In ABAP, the output is displayed on what? LPS, list processing screen, or we call it as in C, C++, Java, I believe we call it as console. Here it is called as what? LPS, list processing screen. Let me go back. In SAP, almost every screen contains what? Back button, F3 button. I'll go back. I'll give one more statement. Again, I'll use what? Write statement. I'll say welcome to ABAP. Welcome to SAP ABAP. Again, this is string. No? Close the string. You have to end every statement with what? Period. Period indicates what? End of the statement. Okay. I need not write it in the next line. I can write it here only. Okay. Welcome to SAP ABAP. Then I'll give another statement. Write Hyderabad. So everything I can give it in same line because anyhow we give period. Na? Period indicates what? End of the statement means it will execute this part first. Up to this, it will execute this part till you give period. Till you give period is considered as what? End of the statement. Okay, so let me execute now. Since I modified my program, let me save it. Control S. Check for the syntax errors. Control F2. Again, I got an error. What is that? The last statement is not complete. I think I missed period here. I have to give period. Let me correct it. Let me save it again. Control S. Control F2. Program is syntactically correct. What is the status now? Inactive. Without activating also, I can directly execute, but make an habit about what? Activating the object. Why exactly we have to activate? We'll discuss when you go to transporting the object from one system to another system. So till that time, make an habit, save, check for syntax errors, Control F2, and activate it, Control F3. So let me activate, Control F3, done, continue, enter, execute, F8. I got everything in what? Same line. Welcome to Gensoft Technologies, welcome to SAP ABAP, and what? Hyderabad. Am I clear? So instead of writing everything in the same line, when you're writing any object, when you're developing any object, take care of readability also. Means after 1 year, if I come and see the code, if some other person comes and view your code, you should be able to understand. So don't try to write everything in a single line. So just to increase the readability, I'll put it in what? Next line. Okay, so now when I execute, I got what? In the same line. Understood? Now I'll say here, somewhere here, I'll say U line. Save it, check for the syntax, activate this, execute this. What I got? I got again in the same line, I got this U line, underline. Now what is my requirement? I want to print them as a separate statement. So once again, see, I want the same statements. I'll just copy this. I'll paste it here. Let me execute. Execute. I got the result. Okay. But I want it in the separate line. So what I'll do here, in the second line here, I'll say slash. In C++, I believe we use slash n. Slash n, n indicates what? New line. Here you have to simply say what? Slash. So let me save it. Check for syntax. Activate this. When I execute, I got it in a separate line. I'll go back. How to go back? F3. I'm pressing F3 to go back. F3 back button. Okay. It's not compulsory that I have to give uline. Uline is only to separate the output. I give uline. Uline indicates what? Underline. That's why you can see the result here. I got underline in between. If you don't want that, I can remove. Out. I want to comment it. I don't want to remove. I want to comment it. So how do you comment? If you know C language, C plus Java, to comment any line, I think at the beginning of the line you say slash slash. You'll say slash slash so that the line is commented. Here at the beginning of the line you have to say simply star. Star indicates what? The entire line is what? Commented. Now see here, save it, check it, done, activate those. When I execute, I got the result. Welcome to Gensoft Technologies. Welcome to SAP ABAP, welcome Hyderabad. And this welcome to Gensoft I got in the same line. So what I'll do, I want it in the next line. So here I'll say here also. At the beginning of the line also I'll say slash. So when I execute, I got the results. So what we understood so far is how to develop the object. What is the statement used for displaying the output? Write statement. Write statement you can compare similar to printf. You can compare similar to cout in C++. In Java, I think we use system.out.println. Here it is what? Write statement. Write statement display the content on what? LPS. LPS stands for what? List processing screen. So I got the result. Am I clear? I can go back. It will open me what? Again ABAP editor. There again I can give what? A new program name. Okay. So if you want to open the existing program, how do you open? I'll go to SC38. Here I have to give the existing program name. What is the existing program name? Z10M program 1. If I don't know the program name, if I forget the program name, I can press this F4. If you press F4, it will show you too many programs. So you can just click on the information system. I can give the list here. Okay, it will show that. Assume that I want to show all the program which is starting with Z, So I'll say Z star here, and when I press enter, continue, I'll get all the objects starting with what? Z. All the objects starting with Z. Suppose I want to show only those programs which is starting with Z10M. What I'll do? I don't know the complete program name. I know some information like Z10. Okay, I'll say star. Star indicates what? N number of characters. So I'll give Z10 star. I'll press F4 or I can click on this and I press F4. Yeah, there are two programs starting with the Z10. What is that? Z10M program 1 and Z10M Mara. Suppose I want to start all the programs. I want to show all the programs starting with Z7. So Z7M I'll say. Z7M star. I'll press F4. It will not showing me any program names. It is not showing me any program names. Okay. Suppose here I'll say Z star program also means it should start with Z7 and it should end with what? PROG star. Okay, I'll press F4. I don't have anything. 1 second. One second. Can I continue? Okay, it's showing like that. 1 second, please. Oh, sorry, this is other server. Now, okay, I thought this server. This server it is there. Let me open. In this server, I'm having many programs starting with what Z7 name. Let me check. Yeah, I'll go to SC38. I'll say Z7 name star. What will happen? It will show me all the program names starting with the Z7 name. Star indicates what? N number of characters, any characters. So I'll press F4 here. Yeah, good. You can see it is showing me all the programs starting with what? This is programs related to some other current existing batch. So just I want to show that star here. Okay, so let us come back here. What is the program name? In our case, Z7M program 45. So if I open this, if I don't know the program name, at least you should know partial information. So I'll say Z10 star. When I press F4, it will show me all the object names starting with what Z10. I'll choose this, click on what change mode. I can do the necessary changes. Here again, I'll say uline. Okay, I'll say bye. Slash indicates what? New line. So when I execute, Control F3, execute. How do I execute? F8. I got what? So here, don't worry about this. Just try to understand the purpose of write statement. It's used for what? Displaying the results. You can compare this write functionality similar to what? Printf. Write functionality similar to what? Printf in C language, or cout in C++, or system.out.println in Java. So these are about different what? We understood about this logon pad, SAP easy access screen, okay, and ABAP programming rules. You can see here just now I told every statement must end with what? Period. ABAP statements are not case sensitive. Suppose example write statement is there. Here only you can see write statement is there. This write statement I can write it in lowercase. I can write it in uppercase. Suppose I am writing it in uppercase. Doesn't matter. Okay. It is not case sensitive. So you can say I wrote it in uppercase. Still it will work. I got what? Welcome message. I can write it as a combination of what? Lowercase and what? Uppercase. Okay, so it is not the statements. The keywords are not case sensitive. I can write it in lowercase or what? Uppercase. Am I clear? That is the one of the programming rule. Like that, we'll come across many program. We know only two programming rules as of now. What is that? Every statement must end with period, dot. ABAP statements are not case sensitive. And this also we understand the fourth one. Strings are enclosed in what? Single quotes. Welcome. Group. What do you mean by string? Group of characters. Collection of characters is called as what? String. So I gave it in what? Single quotes. Similarly, if you want to comment any line, okay, at the beginning of the line, if I say star here, entire line is what? Comment. Comment means what? It will not be executed. It will be ignored. That statement will be ignored. It will not be considered for execution. That's why I didn't got any U line here. I got only one U line at the bottom. This one I got. I got this one, but I didn't got this, but it's commented. Star is a what? Symbol used for what? Commenting the lines. That's what I am trying to show. Like this, we'll come across what? Other programming rules also going forward. Okay, ABAP is not space sensitive. Means if I write ABAP is space sensitive, means if I write z equal to x plus y, it will show it as what? Invalid. You have to maintain a minimum one space. So all these things we'll see in the rest of the course. Don't worry about this. So these are some of the rules you have to take care. And we understood the concept of what? Client. What is a client? 3-digit number used for what? Unique identification of a system in the landscape. What else? We understood the meaning of what? Transaction. And we understood that every object that we are trying to save, we have to save it in either in a transportable package or you have to save it in what? Local object. If I save it in local object, I cannot transport it. If I save it in a transportable package, I can transport the object from one client to another client. So when we come to transportation concept, we'll see the meaning of this moving the object from one system to another system. And we started with a simple example where we develop this code in a tool called as what? ABAP editor. What is the T code for that ABAP editor? SE38. So the tomorrow onwards, it will be completely programming. We'll see different statements, how to read the input, how to display the output, how to perform the calculations, everything. We'll start discussing from tomorrow onwards. Today, we are done with all the theoretical part related to ABAP also. So any questions for today, please ask me. Any questions? Right, so I'll stop for today. I hope everyone has received the recordings and material. I've shared all the we are done with 2 sessions. I've shared that material and recordings. I hope everyone has received it. Okay, so this slides whatever I discussed today, these things also I'll share it by end of today, and the recording also I'll try to share today only. Okay, so tomorrow onwards it will be completely programming. We'll focus only on the programming part. And the server access, as I told you, I'll share the vendor details. I'll share it today. I'll share it today. Okay, you can contact them and take the system on the rental basis. You can connect to their server remotely. Anytime, 24 hours, you can access their server. That. So if you don't have any questions, I'll wind off for today. Chala. So if you don't have any questions, fine. We'll continue tomorrow with the complete programming part from tomorrow onwards. Chala. Thanks everyone.